the city. Politics, progress, game boards, objects viewed like pawns till we change up our mindset. Value of the dollars at the center of this conflict, where lives only matter if they serve to make a profit. But if a midget sees further on the shoulders of the giant, then we should see further than the tyrant and build a future within the alliance where success is our science in the quest to go higher. It's the heart of the city.
Wake up, world. Welcome to another episode of HeartCity TV. I'm your host, Malik Boyd. I hope that wherever you are in good spirits and all is truly well. There's so much to discuss today. The show topic is one that I'm sure all of you over the last month, the last year, the last few years, quite frankly, if you have been focused on politics and national news and news of empowerment for our folk, playing chess, not checkers. How do we do it? How do we ensure that our community is making the right moves, not just for the sake of movement, but to really and truly move us forward? However, if you're watching the news, there's so much to deal with. There's tons of violence in the space. We're watching increases of violence, even in Philadelphia. We are headed well over 400 murders. That is the projection. That is totally unacceptable when we're talking about how we take care of our people, how we increase quality of life, how we increase economic development for our people. And so I am excited about those who are doing the work in the space, not just in the kingdom, but also in the community, to ensure that we have resources and just ways to take care of the pressing issues of life. This individual who's coming to us to lead our prayer for the city, I am excited about her. Pastor Dr. Natika McPherson. She's the pastor at the R.A.R.E Worship Center in Kannapolis, North Carolina. It is an absolute pleasure having you on Heart of the City. Welcome home.
Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So, Doc, there is much to discuss. Obviously, you know the issues of the day, not just being a doctor and one who's dealing with the triage of medical care, but spiritual care as well for our community. Much of these are heart issues that
absolutely.
And you cannot legislate your way through any of these things. This is a conversation we have to have with each other and with our God. And so with all that you know, with all that you've experienced, I'm going to ask you to lead us into our 2-minute prayer for the city.
Father, we thank you and we praise you, God. We thank you for who you are, God. We thank you for how you've allowed us to come together at this time, God, with HeartCity TV, God, to let people know who you are first and foremost, God, and to remind those around us, no matter what position they are in, God, no matter how high or how low they may feel in their lives, God, but to remind them that in spite of everything that's going on, you are still God. Lord, we'd like to lift up our president to you right now, God. Whatever's going on with his body, God, we ask that you would touch him from the crown of his head to the sole of his feet, God. Whatever's going on with his mind, God. We know that all of us are humans. We've all sinned and come short of your glory. But at the end of the day, we know that nothing is too big or too hard for you. We ask that you would continue to show us what we need to navigate through this thing called life, no matter what the differences or the challenges that we face, and continue to remind us that you've created each and every one of us as individuals to be specifically a blessing in every manner that you've given us, to give us to use our gifts individually, to be the blessing first and foremost to ourselves and to everyone we're connected to, because we know that ultimately your love overtakes every challenge that we face. We thank you and we ask that you would have your way, each and every person participating in this show today. We thank you for the words that would be said and the seeds that will be planted. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for covering us in prayer. You know, there are many seasoned saints and new converts that heard, you know, your prayer for the president. And they're charged. Obviously, all of us are emotionally charged around the issues of the day, the politics. But as believers, just call it to something different. And contrary to popular belief, it's not just to pray and wait for
Absolutely.
Creator to show up. We pray, we have conversation, but we also move. Faith without works is absolutely dead. So talk about the works that are happening in the community and the footprint that you have been charged to lead.
And so I have been pastoring for about 8 years now total. Initially, I was in the church, came up under Bishop Blake Mills and Tree of Life Fellowship of Churches there in Philadelphia. And I was initially in the church, you know, the traditional thing, and I started to get uncomfortable. And I started to go to God, and some major things happened in my life when I started to go to him, up to and including divorce and my church.
Wow.
I don't want to say shutting down, but it dispersing. I'll say it that way. And so I was kind of like, you know, and at the point I had wrote a book called Getting to Know Marriage. And I'm like, God, how does this work? You said ask you, and then now, you know, what am I supposed to do with all of this? So fast forward a few years, you know, God is still like, you still have the same assignment. It doesn't change. You know, oftentimes we feel like God said, the message is always the same. And so in realizing why I got uncomfortable, I realized that there's too many people out here that are dealing with life in general that for whatever reason are having a hard time finding their way into the church building. They're finding it hard to follow these traditional rules when they're not seeing life paying them back for it. So, you know, church says you reap what you sow. And a lot of people have been in church for years and years and years, and they're waiting for their harvest, you know. So I said, God, send me and I'll go. So R.A.R.E stands for real and raw experiences. And we kind of post up wherever, downtown with the homeless. Here lately, God has opened a door. One of the neighborhood barbershops has a nice property outside, and they're the same vision. You know, we want God to move in the people everywhere, not just the ones in the building. So we have our outdoor services. We have a DJ going, you know, people stop, and we allow the Holy Spirit to do what he does without any confines of anything.
So it's interesting. You remind me of the works of Paul, and Paul talks about being all things to all men so that he may win them for Christ. In this time frame, very few individuals who have not had a true experience with the Creator. There's a lot of despair, and even amongst those who are spiritual. I mean, it's not hard to look out and see despair all around us and not have it permeate our way of life. Absolutely. What are some of your words of encouragement to those who know higher power but are experiencing some pretty challenging days?
Sure. So my words of encouragement are to take a chance, let go of what you've been taught, your traditions and your beliefs, and dig in for yourself. Spend some time one-on-one. Get rid of what we know as unless the pastor or the leader or the, you know, get to know God for yourself. That's my words of encouragement. However small or big that conversation is, hey, God, here I am. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And sit and listen. And I promise you, he will do just what you need him to do, whether you understand it or not.
So violence is not just in what we consider urban cities. We've seen, quite frankly, over the years, traumatic violent incidents occur in suburban and rural areas. Nonetheless, our urban centers are plagued with a myriad of issues, right? Economic, instability, political suppression, and then, quite frankly, some manufactured damage that has happened at the hands of systems and just groups of people in general.
Absolutely.
For God's people, I mean, we read in the book basic instructions before leaving Earth. Somebody will get that on the ride home.
Right.
In that book, there are so many times that the Creator showed up in some of the most challenging moments, you know, but it also took courage on the behalf of the people, right? Moses had to walk up to Pharaoh and say, listen, bruh, like it's time. We're out, right? Before Harry Tubman got here, I'm the first individual to say we out, right? But going up to the river and or the sea and having to walk across is a challenging thing. He's going to ask you to do some really extraordinary things. In these times. Talk about the courage, because I think that the church really is the foundation of where some of this change is going to happen. We're not going to see it on the legislative floor like we think. No matter how many black faces we put in political office, we're going to see agendas co-opted over and over again. I believe the church is one of those opportunities of change within our community. What are your thoughts on that, and how do we restore that strength that we once had?
Sure. So my thoughts on that is we have to, first and foremost, we have to look at principles. I am one that, I grew up in church. I love church, but tradition, again, has gotten us stuck. So when you talk about the courage to go out there to do those abnormal things and what the church's role at this point is, we may not be able to stand on the White House and say, you know what, this is how God is going to do it. Let's have it done. But just like with anything, change starts one by one. So what we can do as leaders in the church is not be afraid to be honest, not be afraid to say, you know what, we haven't always done it the right way, or not be afraid to say that some stuff we didn't even know we needed to do or we needed to address. So be honest, listen to the people that are out there going through it, because our goal is to go and win those that are lost. So listen to the lost. Respond to what they're saying. Don't have an agenda that you've pre-written, because you're ready to tell them what they need. Go in, hear them, and address what's being said with the power of God that is within you.
All right. So you just went down a whole lane that I really, really want to travel. Many times we ask members of the community to come into the building, and we consider the building to literally be the church, when those of us that understand this at a different level get the fact that we are the church. No matter where we are, we bring it with us. And so the opportunity is not always to build the biggest building. And the biggest building does not guarantee the biggest impact, right?
Right,
so
right.
You can be a dead mega church, and you can be an impactful, intimate size church. It's all about the spirit and the energy and the mission and your ability to stay focused on that great commission that has been charged to us. And so you're talking about a listening ear, active listening in the space, in the community, not just throwing resource, but making sure that it's the right resource for our community. What are some of the resource requests that you're hearing while you're out in our community in North Carolina?
So it's a lot, because in addition to being a pastor, I am a mental health doctor. But what I will say, and because we're talking about pastoring, what I'm hearing most from God's people who are looking for more, looking for different, they want to be accepted. They want to be loved. So we have food drives, which is nice. And I'm not saying that they don't have a need for food. We give away clothes, which is cool, but we don't give the validation of unconditional love. Right. So as soon as it looks different from the masses, I either support you from afar or I back off altogether. What I need to know is, if something goes wrong in my life, intentionally or unintentionally, does God still love me? The only way I know that is if you are there to hold me accountable, love me in spite of, and also what many leaders don't like to do, be honest and tell me you've been there and you got through it. Honestly.
Now, you all right, so you're hitting some chords and nerves. That leadership is really crucial now. I remember growing up in church, and quite frankly, if you asked the question, it was said to you, look, Jeremiah 3:15, and I'll give you pastors, right? According to my heart. And that's it. All right. So you got a pastor, don't ask no more questions.
Right.
Wait to hear what he or she has to say. We're in a space now where people are not questioning necessarily God, but they're questioning, so what is your experience with God? Since you're going to throw this God in my face, or since you're going to present this God to me and say that this is the solution, what exactly has it done for you to follow him?
Right.
And what have been some of your missteps in that journey? That's something that many of us, we don't like to talk about, because we don't like to talk about our missteps.
Right. And we also have to be willing to show them a greater reward than material things. You got to be able to say, you know what? I used to be depressed. I used to struggle with anxiety. We got to be able to say, I used to hate going to my family dinners, but God did something in me, and now everybody wants to come to my house. We got to be willing to talk about the things that really matter, that unconditional love. And that's what people are looking for.
So how do we translate that message into today's political climate? Obviously, our church leaders are in one aspect, but they're not on the House floor. They're not in DC in those particular boardrooms, at least in the legislative sausage making space.
Right.
How do we ensure that our leaders reflect our agenda, especially in this economic climate that we're in?
Right. So I think the biggest thing, the most important thing is going to be to remember our role, right? We have to remember our role. So as spiritual leaders, it is not for us to decide what the laws are, agree or disagree. It's for us to cover our people, right? In prayer and in proper teaching. So at our levels, the best thing that we can do to support or even deal with politics as they are now, everybody is an individual. So we should be leading our people as individuals. When you talk about voting and things of that nature, educate yourself and make an educated decision. But in addition to that, we have to remind our people that, again, like you said, faith without works is dead. The Bible says that some plant, some water, but God gives the increase. If we're not on that floor, what they can't stop us from doing is praying and living a life that reflects what we want to see across the world. They can't stop us from doing it. And if we ask God, he has to answer because we're obedient.
And, one of the things that I think is so crucial is that bodies remember the power in collective unity. It's not enough for us to just join together in a sister church fellowship once a year.
Absolutely.
Churches should be talking with each other on a consistent basis about, political agendas, what needs to happen, what we need to see for our community. We should have quarterly, and this is just my opinion, we should have quarterly reports where we're bringing our elected officials to the table for a meeting of the church. No different than we have finance. Because our finance meetings in church, if we're going to be honest, Lord knows they can be
take up all the time.
$2, right? So how are you going to attack the deacon and the chairman and the trustee, but not attack the elected official who has millions of dollars to allocate? And so as we recognize, yes, we're going to render to Caesar what's Caesar's and to God what's God's, I think there is an opportunity for us to really get engaged, not always in a partisan way, but in an active space to ensure that we're getting what we need. What does that look like for you? Because I know you're seeing this from a couple of different angles. You're seeing it from a health angle. You're seeing it from a pastoral angle.
Right.
As a community leader, because I think all three of those have some nuance to them.
Sure.
What do we need to do in terms of being able to select and really create and craft collective agenda amongst the fellowship?
And so, again, I think it goes back to educating ourselves. I think that we have to step back and first, as leaders, take a moment to educate ourselves, not be afraid to say, I don't know the big picture. You know what I mean? Some of us grew up in church and we know what it looks like and we memorize, what the program is supposed to be and what's supposed to happen on Wednesdays. But, this is God's agenda ultimately. So especially in a time like now, I have to say, okay, God, I got to go back and make the initiative to educate myself, because the people that are following me as a woman of God, they need to hear sound information so that we can do something. So again, when we're doing these things, whether it's, coming together, one of the things that we recently talked about, coming together for a trade fair, right? Because if we know that people are not into college in your area, and that's the thing, let's show them other options. But again, finding out, it goes back to that listening ear. Even as the church, don't be afraid to veer away from church service. That's not where the Bible begins and ends. It begins and ends in the community.
Yeah.
That's where it begins and ends.
Absolutely. You're hitting the nail on the head. And I'm sure some of this is even in your books, right? So you're an author. For the broadcast audience, understand that Dr. McPherson has 3 powerful books, From the Inside Out, It's Up to You, and Getting to Know Marriage. From the Inside Out, talk more about that book and what those who would read it would expect from its pages.
Sure. So From the Inside Out, that's a book that I wrote. Really is about self-awareness. because essentially it talks about all the things and all the people that we are connected to and all of the information that we've kind of gathered all over the years, be it from church or school or family, you know, things that were taught to us. But then taking all of that information, kind of like I said in the beginning, stepping back and saying, okay, God, I have all of this stuff. Now, how does this apply to me personally? What do I do with it? So that's from the inside out. You have everything you need in you. Now you need to take a minute and talk to God to figure out how to let that show.
I need to have some conversation. There's a solution already in me. He's already planted the seed.
There you go.
I've got to get out the way and allow it to grow.
There you go.
And I think that is a lesson, not just for spiritual life, but even for us in the community, understanding we have the tools, you know, Greenwood, Rosewood, Fourth Avenue, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's not some historical context that we'll never get again.
Absolutely.
And we should just pay honor to those who have done it. It's already in us. We are entrepreneurs. We're leaders. We're doctors and lawyers. We can sustain our economic dollar and keep it in our community for longer than 7 seconds.
Sure.
I mean, all of that's here. To your point, it's making sure that we get out of the way of its growth so that God can do exactly what he's called for us to do. I'm honored to have spent this time with you.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I do.
So what we're going to do is make sure for broadcast audience, we'll make sure that we post your books on our social media pages so that those who want to purchase can get to them. I'm encouraging everyone to purchase not just one, get all three of her books, Dr. McPherson. It's been a pleasure having this
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. And so tell the listening audience how they can worship and fellowship with you. Are there online services or ways to connect on social media?
Sure. So we are online. We're mostly on Facebook Live. It's under R.A.R.E Worship Center, which that is spelled with periods, R.A.R.E. With periods in between, because again, that's real and raw experiences. And we do our services in person at 704 North Cannon Boulevard here in Kannapolis, but we are also live on Facebook. And before I go, on October the 24th, which is on a Saturday, at 2 p.m., we will be having a Guns Down Bible Up event. To just talk about how to deal with, the violence, to get involved and to put our hands to the plow. Again, not just Bible. So if you're here in Kannapolis, Charlotte area, Concord, join us on Saturday, October the 24th at 2 p.m. at Village Park in Kannapolis.
Dr. Natika McPherson, it has been a pleasure. Consider this home whenever you want to stop by. The door will always be open to you.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. So we've heard from Dr. Natika McPherson. Clearly, there is work to be done and work that is being done. I need you to play a part too as well. This is what the show is about. I'm going to a break. On the other side, Lisa Rhodes, a dear friend and leader right here in the Delaware Valley. You'll hear from her and all the things you need to do to be prepared for this upcoming election. You are watching HeartCity TV. We'll be right back.
Hey man, I really appreciate that Patrick Price on my insurance, Jake from State Farm. Being a champ has its perks.
Here's the deal, Patrick. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Let me repay the favor with some field passes. Come on.
No favors, just great rates.
Okay, fine. I'll let you wear the ring, but only for a day.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If I could do one thing, I'd make sure that there were more textbooks in schools. I'm a teacher. I've seen the need. But my girlfriend here likes to say,
don't just talk about it, be about it.
And we're about the 2020 census.
Because when everyone gets counted on the census, it helps inform public funding in our neighborhood for the next 10 years.
So don't just talk about it.
Be about it.
Complete the census online, by phone, or by mail. Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
We're back. You're watching HeartCity TV. I am excited because Lisa Rhodes is here. An amazing leader in her own right. Know that she is a mover and shaker, not just in the Delaware Valley, but around the country. She's the chairwoman of the PA Democratic Black Caucus. Welcome to HeartCity. Welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you, my dear brother.
Absolutely. So let's talk about it, Lisa. There's an election coming up. There's a lot to be discussed, whether it's COVID or, I mean, the list goes on, quite frankly, the economy, job creation, the agenda for Black America. One thing that I am adamant about ensuring that it's at the table, no matter what table and party is there. Talk about what the broadcast audience needs to know about this upcoming election. I mean, obviously, mainstream media is going to pitch their specific points that they want to touch on, but as the chairwoman of the caucus, what are the things that Black America needs to know?
I think that one of the things that they need to know is that at least the Biden-Harris campaign does have a Black agenda. You know, our current administration doesn't have one, and quite frankly, does not care, obviously, about the Black community and small business, and the list goes on. And so the Biden-Harris administration has a platform, and it's entitled Lift Every Voice. And that's an appropriate title because it doesn't just lift the voice for African-American people in the community, even though it is germane to our issues, but it's for anyone who's marginalized, right? And marginalized communities and people of color in general. So at least there's an agenda, and I know the agenda exists because I was actually able and honored to be appointed to the platform committee, and 4 of my amendments were accepted. 4 were actually rolled into policy, and the other 4, well, you know me, Malik, I said, well, I would like those to be considered for the first 100 days. So, you know, one of the guys, he was like, don't you know, it's just, you know, just to get one amendment accepted is an honor. And I said, yeah, for some people, but I mean, we have been waiting a very long time for our voices to be heard. And so I thought, in my mind, all 16 were worthy to make it in. So yes, there is an agenda.
The time is now. And so what would you say to those who are, because obviously, even in our community, we're split. Clearly, there were folk that wanted to see one thing happen in the Democratic Party. However, Biden-Harris is the ticket. And so there's a unifying effort, and there was a very comprehensive unification effort by the party as well. And so President Trump just released a plan. Also, opportunity zones have been a focal point that he has reached out to communities of color to talk about small business. For those small businesses, we know Forbes says that 50% of Black businesses may not return as a result of COVID, right? And that's a tragedy as we talk about the Black dollar. What are some of the things inside of the plan for Black America that the Biden-Harris team has put together that small business owners can look forward to?
So part of the plan, so let's go back for 1 second. When you start talking about that now the current administration is, you know, producing a plan. I mean, he's had 4 years. This administration promised all of these jobs, that factories would reopen. It was promise after promise. So when people start talking about, you know, who they're going to vote for, just check the current track record and see if any of those things were actually done, and check our current economic status. We're in a recession. And so in the plan, it actually talks about post-COVID building, giving small businesses economic assistance, giving them assistance with how to develop or redevelop their businesses that may have been lost to recreate them. And so there is specific language in the plan that talks about small businesses, redevelopment and assistance, monetary assistance, as well as workshops to talk about how to rebuild businesses in our communities.
You know, I think that's really important. We have to ensure that our Black businesses have enough capital to rotate the dollar inside of our community. It's not enough anymore to rely on grants and subsidies, and all those things are great. We need to get every dollar that we deserve. Nonetheless, it's important to make sure that we have a strong backbone of our own economic community so that we can uplift, our tax base, which is really crucial when we talk about education, when we talk about job creation. To your point, those things aren't built out of the thin air, and we want to make sure that there are brown faces that are connected to the top level of decisions when we talk about cities like Philadelphia and Detroit and Atlanta, places, Houston, where African American populations are alive and thriving. There's a debate happening. I clearly, we know already about the presidential debate. We saw that one. Everybody around the world saw that one. However, there's a vice president debate that's going to occur. Talk about this debate, what viewers can expect from Senator Harris.
Well, my expectation, and I'm a little biased, I will openly admit, because she is my soror, my sorority sister, a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. I think she's going to bring the fire. There is a benefit to have attended an HBCU. There is a benefit to have pledging. There's a benefit to be on two of the most powerful committees, the Judiciary and Intelligence Committee, as a senator. So I believe that she is going to bring the fire and ice. I believe that she is going to deliver the message that we were trying to hear during the last debate. I think that she will be the one who will inspire us to get out and vote. And she will, all those people who are undecided, the goal tonight is to make them decide that they want to get on the Biden-Harris ticket.
Let me ask you a question. And I get that this is your personal analysis of it. Can Black America be assured that not just a Black face, but a Black agenda will truly be accomplished as the Biden-Harris ticket moves forward, not just into the GOTV, but if elected? You talked about the first 100 days. I'm thankful that you wanted to ensure that the remaining points of your agenda plan were in place and addressed. How do we ensure, quite frankly, that the Black collective agenda is a part of the total economic strategy?
You have a very good point. I think that it's through education, number one. I believe that now, the Black communities are becoming much more aware. They're becoming much more in tune. And now they are actually calling for accountability because they understand what's at stake now. Before, as they would say, we weren't woke, right? But there's been a major awakening in the African American communities. And now we're saying we are going to hold our elected officials accountable for the things that they said that they're going to do and for the platforms on which they stand. And so I think that's going to be the key, that we collectively come together. We have multiple organizations that are well known, from the Congressional Black Caucus to the Legislative Black Caucus to now the state, My Black Caucus, the State Black Caucus, the NAACP, a lot of different nonprofits. And I think that our collective effort and to build a coalition together to, because we have our own Black agenda, right? And so we need to just make sure that they don't forget, because so often when people get in office, because we don't hold them accountable, they're not, right? And so that's what I'm saying, that when you go to the polls, or when we all go to the polls on November the 3rd, hold our current administration accountable. Have they, I don't listen to individuals. You don't have to. We have Google, right? So you can fact check whatever is said tonight, whatever was said in the last election, but most importantly, check your bank account. Check that business that used to be on the corner. check on your grandmother to say, are you still going to have Medicare, or is Medicaid going to be cut? Check those things that you care about most on your own personal agenda, and then expand it out to the rest of the community. Right? When you talk about organizing, I tell people, they're like, well, what can I do? Or where should I start? And I said, walk outside your front door, do a 360-degree turn, and see what's in your community that's missing or isn't missing, right? And then take it from there, or see what matters to you most. That's how most movements are launched, from personal feelings or activities or tragedies that has happened to individuals. So,
and I think it's important too, as you make that 360-degree turn, that you talk to the neighbor that you ignore, that you walk past. It's time to become neighbors again and understand everybody's journey. I think many of us have gone away, including myself, have gone away from the neighborly love that existed, in times past. We knew everybody on the block. We talked to them. We understood their story. And so it was very easy to come together, whether it be from a block perspective or a hyper localized community perspective, to be able to address the issues. And so you bring up some really great points. I know there's some events going on tonight. Many of us are live streaming different events, connecting on Zoom to talk about the debate and whatever follow-up is going to happen from there. Are there any events coming out of the PA Black Caucus that we need to pay attention to?
I am so glad that you asked. Yes, we are actually having a debate watch party tonight. We are honored to have guests Shirley Ralph. We will have A.J. Johnson, Kim Wheatley, Senator Sharif Street, Councilwoman and now DNC member Cindy Bass will be there as well. And we're going to talk about the importance of voting, the importance of the Black vote specifically. We're also going to tell people about their options on voting and voting early, and talk about the satellite locations, the 7 that we have, and the additional 10 that will be opening. And we're going to just get prepared for the debate and chat throughout to talk about, how we're feeling about it and the tenor of the debate. So I would love for everyone in your listening audience to attend. And then we're going to follow up the next day, though, because it's nice to gather to talk about how we felt about it and have the celebrities. But what's important is the work, right? So the next day, got to do the work, right? So we're going to have it'll be my second statewide phone bank. And it was very successful the last time. So we're asking folks to come join the phone bank. The next day is going to be held from 6:30 to 8. For people who are new to phone banking, don't worry. We're going to spend the first 10 minutes going over the script and playing role play, which is a lot of fun, so people will feel comfortable reaching out to their neighbors to tell them to get out and vote on November the 3rd.
Broadcast audience, please, by all means, make sure you check out the PA Black Caucus. They're doing some amazing work. You're the chairwoman, her leadership and her leadership team, Lisa Rhodes. It is always good to see you. Always good to know that you're in the space fighting for our people, our community, and a brighter future for all of us. We appreciate everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for having me.
I'm excited. Lisa Rhodes just made it plain. Look here. No matter what side of the fence or aisle you're on, you need to understand what's happening in the space, what the agenda is, coming from either party, incumbent or those who are seeking the office. You need to know what affects you and your people. And it's not, I need us not to be selfish too. It's something that just may benefit you, but hurts the rest of your community is not good. We can no longer afford to be selfish. We can no longer afford to just take what's good for me and mine and leave the rest of our community by the wayside. To Lisa's point, get to know your neighbors, take that 360 view and have conversation, talk to folk, understand what will collectively bring an agenda to the table. And by all means, do everything you can to vote. None of this matters. None of this conversation, none of the Facebook post, the reposting of memes, none of it matters if your vote does not count. You are a shareholder in the biggest corporation in the world, the United States of America. It would be a shame for you to be a leader whose voice is not heard at the boardroom table. I am so excited to have Lisa with us, and we'll make sure that we also continue to post the information about the debate party tonight from the PA Legislative Black Caucus. These next two guests, I'm excited about them, Tanya Morris and Coach Stan Laws. These individuals are absolutely amazing in the space. Tanya has been a incredible leader, the CEO of Mom Your Business. She is she's a juggernaut in her own right, and it's always good to hang with Sister Tanya. I love you. It is so good to see you. Welcome back home.
Welcome. Happy to be here. I was trying to, do some things in podcast studio, make my audio a little bit better, but we'll make it do what it do.
Listen, I got you. You're doing your thing. And we'll talk about that podcast too, because everyone needs to add that to their collection. In the middle, calling the plays, the Doc Rivers of the Delaware Valley, none other than Coach Stan Groovy Laws, the coach of the Camden Monarchs. Brother, it's great to have you with us, man.
Malik, what's going on? It's great to hear. Great to be here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you good,
okay.
Loud and clear.
Look, how's everything?
I'm good. I mean, the economy is what it is. COVID's happening, and we got to be real about that and understand the implications of that, and try to figure out how to navigate and bring an economy back. That's something that you're doing, and we'll talk about that with the tryouts that are coming up for the Camden Monarchs. For those who are athletic, not just in spirit, but truly athletic and can really do the thing. The ABA, and I want to give credit to Giovanni and Thompson and her great work as the leader and founder of the Camden Monarchs, African-American woman at the helm of a professional basketball team. We cannot go without giving her honor and credit. And to you as well, you have been instrumental in building this phenomenal team right in the heart of Camden. Thank you for the love that you're giving to the community, bro.
Thank you. Thank you for this platform, good brother. Glad to be here.
So are both of you ready for the EKGs?
Let's do it.
Let's get it.
Here we go. It's EKG time.
This is the EKG, the part of the show where we place America front and center on the monitors of the American people. We will look for irregularities in the heartbeat, offer solutions on the issues we find in order to make America healthy once again. So fire up the machine. Let's start the EKG.
This week's EKGs are brought to you by Deshuri CBD products. Make sure you check them out at mydeshuri.com. Our first story. This one is something special. Newsweek. Orthodox Jews set fire to their mosque in protest of New York's COVID restrictions. Now, these Orthodox Jews in New York basically created a staging area, and videos posted on social media show a crowd of Orthodox Jews who weren't socially distancing, weren't covering their faces, burning the mask in the Brooklyn area of New York in response to the guidelines that were recently placed in to action by Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, the New York Fire Department extinguished the small fire in the middle of the street, with a line of people appearing to briefly try to block the firefighters' attempts to put out the blaze. All right, here's my issue, Tanya, Stan. Black folk were getting blamed for not putting masks on, and we were in North Philly shaking our derriere, which we were. I did see a few World Star hip hop videos of y'all. Y'all treated it like it was Delaware Avenue. We were wrong for that. But we seem to be the only ones outside of the president getting charged for not wearing masks, not having PPE, not socially distancing. We were charged as the only ones trying to go to Miami and take advantage of these great flights, right? and go to the Dominican. But other groups as well are doing the same thing. I mean, we could say that the president, and we've heard it, the president's responsible for COVID. Well, he's not at 16th and Cambridge. He's not in Brooklyn, New York, right? He's not on Delaware Avenue. And he's not at the places that we're in. He's not at the supermarket with that person that's 2 feet behind me that won't let me pay for my groceries. That wasn't the president. That was us refusing to follow guidelines that could reduce this incident and this pandemic. Tanya, this pandemic is getting worse. The numbers are going back up. If we don't follow the guidelines, we're going to end up with the collapsed economy, and you can't blame it on any political party. It will be of our own doing. How do we restore ourselves back to health?
Yeah, I it's really disappointing, Malik, in the least, to say that we just don't get it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a piece of cloth.
Right. Yeah.
It's a piece of cloth. Just, so I think one thing that has to happen is we have to continue to be vigilant in educating our community. We have to continue to be vigilant in and mandating that people wear masks. Every opportunity that you have to encourage someone, it's really got to take on a whole each one teach one. As far as I can see, that is really going to have to be the mentality. And the same thing for testing. Testing is available free in most communities now, especially in our communities with the help of the Black Consortium. I think it's just really imperative that we really take on a each one teach one and continue to really, really encourage folks that this is what has to happen, or we're going to be shut down again, and none of us want that.
And none of us are going to be able to move. Stan, I get a chance to see it from the officiating side in the community, watching athletes now adjust to a returning schedule, right? Obviously, we want our young children to be able to express themselves. Our young children, those who have spent their lives preparing for collegiate sports. I really feel for those juniors and seniors who are trying to figure out what the recruiting world looks like, in a COVID space. And they're forced to make some really challenging decisions. And I know there are those that say, well, books are what it's about, but you cannot understate the impact of athletics in some of our children's lives. And so as we return to this sports arena, you being a coach in a professional space, what are some of the things that we can do to protect ourselves either on the court or as a traveling team as we move forward?
Well, you guys kind of talked about it or alluded to it. Follow the rules. Whatever the rules and guidelines that are placed before us, we need to learn how to adhere to those rules and those regulations. Else we run the risk of getting infected or whatever challenges that comes with the virus and any other things that will come along with it. And so we have to be very conscientious of the fact of what are the rules. Commit ourselves to following them.
That's right. That's right.
I'm with you on that. Listen, audience, we're going to make sure that we post, obviously, this article. We want you to share it with not just your immediate family, but share it with everyone you know. One, let's dispel the myth and the rumors that it's just Black folk or partying communities like spring break. It's everybody. Everybody needs to take the proper precautions. And I'll tell you, and Stan, you and I know this well, and Tanya, you may have a story or two that you've seen, but some of this is common sense too. Stop being dirty. Like if you go into the bathroom, wash your hands before you leave the public restroom. Like there are some things that we just need to do, period, across the board from a hygiene perspective to make sure that things are where they need to be. I'm going to our next story. This one is equally as challenging, but one we need to deal with. The issue of race still exists, obviously, across the country. Atlanta Black Star reports that Black star players stand down in solidarity to boycott a game after their own teammate calls the opposing player the N-word. Now, after hearing a teammate call an opposing player the N-word, these players at a Northeast Texas high school said that, look, we're going to boycott. And we'll boycott not just one game, multiple games if we have to. This week has been crazy. Cam Kimball, a senior and a star running back at Lake Worth High School, said to the newspaper, he said, we've never been through this as a team. I was upset about it. I know some of the others were upset about it, but it's bigger than football. I'm not going to do this to get my name or face out there. Something needs to change. We need some change, and then I'll be back. First of all, I honor those young players who stood up in that way. It would be very easy to just say, look, that was said in the heat of the moment. You know, we had a professional football player who did the same thing on the Eagles, right? Let's be clear. And it was just this soft apology, and they kept rolling like it was nothing. These players said, nah, son, we ain't going there. We'll take the jersey off. We'll lose every game because we're not participating. Y'all know how we do when we're lined up, when we're on the field. So we won't give you that energy and that win until you address the climate. Stan, you're a coach, man. You know, the climate is crazy. We see it not just in youth sports, but leading up into the professional space, even with Black Lives Matters on the court, Commissioner Silva having to enforce it. Look, I don't care what you feel as a team owner. Black lives do matter. We've got to ensure that we treat and handle our Black members of our community in the proper ways. How do we support, as officials, as personnel, as coaches in the space, how do we support our young team members and star athletes who are clearly saying enough is enough?
Well, I think it first begins with setting the example and setting the tone for what we want our young people to aspire to. You know, a lot of these young people today don't have nobody to really look up to outside of athletes or entertainers. But I submit to you guys that they have a better chance of becoming a doctor or lawyer than a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And so when we take that in consideration, the education behind how, you know, manners is a lost art. Let's just keep it real. You know, how are you brought up? And even with that situation, as I perused that article, I noticed that when that young man realized that, you know, we don't want that to be a part of our culture, this team. And we, even as adults or people in our community, we have to curtail certain languages because for some reason, this gives people in our environment the mentality that they can say what we say. And so if we eliminate, you know, racial slurs or epithets, I think the people around us will begin to adapt to the environment, and we'll be better off.
Tanya, do as I say, not as I do. We heard that growing up, but it's a failing thing.
Coach is on point with what he's saying because, you know, that was one of the concerns with being in the bubble and even without having any fans in the stands was buying these guys up and hearing, being able to hear some of the things that they may be saying that you normally would not be able to hear. That was some of the concerns. And so as we look at these young people taking this stand, I think it's incredible because when you look at a state like Texas, where football is everything, absolutely everything, for those guys to stand up and say, we're not having it, we're not continuing with this, is a really, really positive and tremendous stand that they have taken. To add to what Coach said as it relates to the language, we have to continue to work to remove these things from our own vocabulary so that it does not continue to infiltrate, that people think that it's okay. There's no honor in using the N-word. I don't care who says it. Right. So we need to really continue to bring that bell that the things that are attached to that word are not part of our culture, that we need to be saying that it's okay to call, even within our own culture. You know, I never understood that mindset. So we got to move on. We got to do better.
I'll be the first to admit that in my earlier years, that was vernacular used to align with said street cred. to kind of take, to put edge on and kind of take some of the nerd off of you. Specifically a kid coming from Masterman going to Germantown High. My mom set me up the first day. I came in with slacks on, pleated slacks. I mean, they had a whole line going straight down the middle with a plaid shirt on. I got robbed my first day in Germantown High. Every curse word came out the next day. I was like, I'm putting the Bible in the book bag, and we're gonna change a whole persona.
Yes.
I gotta survive here. But there are repercussions to that. Yeah. There are repercussions when we embrace some of these ways that we address even our own selves. And so, to both of your points, we've got to shift up. We've got to shift up, and we've got to celebrate those that are doing the right things. And here's our last and final EKG of someone doing just that. 16-year-old entrepreneur. She ignored criticism and opened up a beauty supply store in Brooklyn. She said, look, everyone always either laughed at me or teased me, but Paris McKenzie opened the door to Paris Beauty Supplies in Brooklyn about a month ago. Yes, she may be a minor, but this isn't her first experience at entrepreneurship. Her mother owned a salon and still owns a salon and boutique on the same street. That's called Black excellence. I'm just thinking out loud here. And so, one, let's celebrate the fact that we have entrepreneurs and young folk who are willing to step out there and create new paths, trends, follow in the great footsteps that their parents have set. For both of you, it's not just a parental journey, but it was also a village. There was a village that got around you and was able to help shape and direct the path that you took and got you to where you need to be. Let's talk about the village and why it's so important, even right now, especially with our youth coming out of COVID, experiencing a world they've never seen before, a new economic climate that we have not seen before. And with all this uncertainty, a village is truly needed, especially as we talk about this next generation. Stan, I see you, you already went there. I saw it all in your face.
Man.
Give us your thoughts, man.
Well, first and foremost, that cliche or old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. Sad to say, I don't really want this village today raising my children because of the variety of things that are in our current village. And until we eradicate some of those things and bring the family back, bring community back, neighbors back, the village has a lot of negative things going on in it. And so, but it also reminds me of my youth when they used to have things like, and I don't know if they still have them, bring your child to work day.
I do remember that.
Day at school where your parents or somebody came in and you brought somebody in to talk about their vocation or occupation. And so when I heard that story, when I read that story, I noticed that young lady in that story, I don't know if you alluded to it, but the young lady grew up working in her mother's shop.
That's right.
Which probably inspired her to go forth and do her own thing. And kudos to that young lady, man. We need inspiration, and inspiration should begin in the home because contrary to popular belief, the parents should be the first teacher.
That's right. That's right.
Charity begins at home, Tanya. That is not just a Bible verse, but a lesson for life.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear us, Stan?
I don't know what happened. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you. We got you. So, Tanya, talk about charity and why it's so important for us to actually bring charity, not just home, but within the immediate village for our community and family.
Well, it's critical. It is absolutely everything. And just to add to something that Stan said relative to the community, that's really what the inspiration was for me to really even start my business. Studies show that entrepreneurs in particular, which is why I was so inspired by Paris's story, that Black and brown female entrepreneurs need community in order to be successful. And so when you look at somebody like Paris, who was working in her mom's salon, that was raised in a nurturing community, and environment, charity is naturally instinctive part of that. It requires, and we use the word, giving back. I'm giving back. We use it it has become so cliche. It's ad nauseum. It's sickening because people aren't really doing that. Giving back is mentoring. It is taking out of your time, and it is being uncomfortable. So we're going to talk about being charitable, and this is something my pastor used to say all the time. If it don't hurt, then you haven't sacrificed in your giving, and that's your time, that is your money, that is your talent, that is your energy. That's what real giving looks like, and it is really the charity that is really going to propel us to another place as we begin to really help these young people. Because I'm concerned for our young people that are now having to be able to have school only online, what that means to their socialization and how is that impacting them moving forward. So we really have got to take this idea of charity and giving back to a whole nother level.
Absolutely. Both of you are giving back in tremendous ways. I'm thankful that both of you are in the space that you're in. I think the world would be a much different place if you weren't there, and if you were not committed to the type of leadership that you have. Really quickly, 30 seconds, break down what you have going on and how the broadcast audience can get involved. Stan, you've got a major event coming up. Tell the listening audience what's going on.
Yeah, this Sunday, the Camden Monarchs are holding their second tryout. Well, their first tryout, but it's our second season. We are going into our second season. Last year, we had a great year. And this Sunday, 9 a.m., G and R.A.R.E Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You guys who think you got game have an opportunity to come out and showcase your talent and win and possibly secure a spot on the Camden Monarchs. This is a semi-professional basketball team who pays their players. And so we want you to bring your game, not your name. I don't care what your name is. I don't care what you did in the past. 9 a.m. You can register on Eventbrite. You can even reach out to me, 267-819-6682, or look on my page, Stan Groovy Laws, and on Facebook. And you also can go on IG, Groove, GROOVE _laws, LAWS _ on Instagram, and click on the Eventbrite. And also, we're going to have guys that can walk up and sign in. So the fee is $99, but it's a great investment if you want to invest in yourself to see if you got what it takes.
Hey, listen, you said bring your game, not your name. That's 87% of us. Look, as I slowly put my game tape back in my bag.
Me too, Malik.
Oh my goodness. But to the broadcast audience, please, it's not just enough to talk about the NBA Finals and what you would have done if you were guarding LeBron and all that. Put all that aside. If you believe that you still have what it takes to produce at a high level, this is a professional basketball team. I need you to know they're doing amazing work, not just on the floor, but also in the community as well. Camden Monarchs is a staple in our community. We embrace them. We support them. We love the organization. We love you, brother, and the great work you're doing. Thank you for joining today. Tanya, you've been telling us for a long time, we better mind our business and get it right. Talk about what you have going on in the space.
So I am so excited because this week is Minority Enterprise Development Week, and we have a couple events that we're participating in as a part of Med Week. I'm a change agent with Black Girl Ventures, which is a national nonprofit organization. And so tomorrow is our pitch competition. And I want to encourage your listeners to please come and support these Black-owned businesses, these Black female-owned businesses on tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. You can go to bit.ly/BGV Takeover. For the registration to participate in the pitch competition. I will also be doing my podcast tomorrow live as a part of the takeover at 4 p.m. with my co-host Nefertiti Strickland, and we're going to be talking to the young ladies from Rebuilding the Block, 23-year-old African-American females who started a movement to really redistribute wealth in the Black community through entrepreneurship and rebuilding some of the businesses that were lost and damaged as a result of COVID and the civil unrest. So I am so excited to have them on the show tomorrow. Again, you can go to the bit.ly/BGB takeover for all of our events that'll be going on tomorrow as we continue to celebrate Met Week.
Tanya, I honor you. I appreciate you. I love you as well for the great work you're doing. Thank you both for joining the EKGs and adding tremendous value to it today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you. So you've heard from Tanya T. Morris and Stan Groovy Laws. Please, by all means, both events, make sure that you're supporting, pushing them out in the community, and more importantly, we've got to support. We have to support the change agents in our community. It's not just enough to repost it on Facebook and social media. You got to get up, and show out for them. Not only do we have to have their backs, but we also have to stand in solidarity. It's nothing worse than sending our change agents out there to an empty landscape with no troops, no support. And so please, by all means, support the Camden Monarchs, a great team in our community, and Tanya T. Morris and Mom Your Business, the great work that is happening on Med Week. I'm going to our Black History Fact Song of the Week on the other side. Wise, intelligent. Yes, Poor Righteous Teachers. If you know anything about that group, you know this brother has been doing phenomenal work in the space. I'm excited to have him on the show with us today. Our Black History Fact of the Week is brought to you by Deshuri, minority-owned wellness products. Make sure you check them out at MyDeshuri, DASHURI.com. Our Black History Fact of the Week is none other than Alvin Childress.
Alvin Childress is best remembered for his role as the philosophical, easygoing character Amos on The Amos and Andy Show, a popular all-black cast sitcom of the early 1950s that depicted the antics of three friends in Harlem. Childress was born on September 15, 1907 in Meridian, Mississippi. Childress began his career on stage, appearing in such productions as Sweetland in 1931 and Savage Rhythm in 1931. A year later, he embarked on a successful film career, appearing in such films as Out of the Crimson Fog and Harlem is Heaven, and went on to appear in several minor film roles throughout the 1930s. In the 1940s, he concentrated on a career in theater and worked as an instructor for the American Negro Theater in Harlem. In 1951, Childress returned to the screen when he landed the role of the leading character Amos in the short-lived Amos and Andy sitcom. The TV show was canceled after 2 years because the NAACP protested the series as fostering racial stereotypes, even though many of the episodes showed blacks with professional and entrepreneurial backgrounds. Once the Amos and Andy show was canceled, Childress used his degree in sociology to work as a social worker for the Los Angeles County Civil Service Commission. He returned to acting occasionally, appearing in a variety of sitcoms including Perry Mason, The Jeffersons, and Sanford and Son, and movies including the 1959 version of Anna Lucasta and Maya Angelou's 1982 television film Sister Sister, where he played opposite Irene Cara, Diane Carroll, Rosalind Cash, and Paul Whitfield. Alvin Childress died of Parkinson's disease and diabetes in 1986 in Inglewood, California.
Our song of the week is none other than Lost One by Jasmine Sullivan. Please, by all means, check out this new record from Jasmine. Support great music. It's only $1.29 on the iTunes or Google Play platform. It's so important that we support our local artists and the great work that they are doing. This brother, if you know anything about hip hop, if you know anything about the message in music, for those of us who, if you're in Philadelphia, you paid attention to the countdown at 9, right? The Power 9 at 9. If you listen to some of the not just TV raps, but the great work that has occurred in the underground market as we shared from barbershop to barbershop, a message of empowerment, a message of success, a message of kingsmanship in our community. This brother has been responsible for much of the work that we have celebrated, enjoyed, party to. The list goes on. Nonetheless, at every step of the way, Wise Intelligent has been responsible for injecting into us the language of excellence, the language of love. My brother Wise, it is an absolute honor having you on Heart City TV. Welcome home, brother.
Oh, the honor is mine. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Listen, it's funny. One of my dearest friends, my first manager to be exact, Jamal Hanna, known as Light from the Bush Babies. I remember having a conversation with him about you. Yeah, man, and the work that hip hop was able to do and to create within us. It wasn't just Fear of a Black Planet and Public Enemy, but it was Poor Righteous Teachers and others, KRS-One, and then collective units like Self-Destruction and records like that allowed us to talk about not just the issues, but talk about uplifting messages in the community. If I follow, and I pray that the broadcast audience follows your social media. If you don't, right after the show, not now, but after the show, make sure you get on Instagram and follow Wise. You're dropping gems, not just in the music, man, but through social media as well. Not only do I thank you for it, but as you look out in the landscape right now, with everything that's going on, brother, where did we go wrong? Because hip hop, that was our platform to tell our story, to communicate to our people, to energize what had been pushed down and downtrodden by the system. And then there was a switch. And many don't know where it occurred, but we went from celebrating our women to calling them out of their name. We went from posturing ourselves in the proper manner as kings and leaders of our community to now talking about how thorough we are and how I'll give you work if you come in my community and don't check in. And then it just took off from there and went further downhill. What happened, brother?
Well, it didn't really happen to hip hop. It wasn't an occurrence that was innate in hip hop. It wasn't an innate change in hip hop.
Yeah.
It was actually a corporate shift.
Yeah.
Corporations that control the social machinery for the mass dissemination of the culture of rap music. They shift the paradigm. They shift the paradigm intentionally, because today we have just as many artists who write and produce and record uplifting hip hop music. However, that music is not financed, it's not backed, it's not readily embraced by the power structure that controls the social media machinery for its dissemination. So we have what we have now because the corporations have made a decision to only embrace this single narrative, and to promote and market this dangerous single narrative that they've been pushing, and
it's really deep for those who have not been in the boardroom, at 1755 Broadway, if you were on the 7th floor at Universal or MCA, or at Tommy Boy or Def Jam, some of these places, when you walked in and there was a robust A&R department. This is, I'm going back a few years, right? When we were still delivering 2-inch masters back to the label. They charted the course. They invested in you. But then slowly but surely it was, I need you to do this a little different. I need you to leave this part alone or take this out and go back and re-record this and leave that portion out. And before we knew it, we were dancing a jig on a stage that never belonged to us, on a microphone that never belonged to us, and recording to a platform that surely didn't belong to us. Now with technology, you and thousands of others who have led the way and are constantly injecting positive messages, you guys can do it on your own with true ownership and really reaping the benefits. How does the community continue to really support you and uplift what you're doing? Because essentially you guys broke the system. You said, look, enough is enough. And now with technology, I don't have to come and kiss a ring anymore. I'll make my own table.
Right. Yeah. It's, while the attempted to leverage the playing field to some degree, people are still fixed within the traditional platforms for their music.
Wow.
So radio still has some value, for people. The Viacoms still have value with people, and the people still equate those platforms with how valuable an artist or the artist content actually is. And that same concept, the same value system is moving to the internet now, because now you have major record companies buying the mainstream platforms. So you have, for example, we have Universal Music Group,
right,
is now partnership and ownership of Ingroove's digital aggregation. You have the Orchard, which is Sony now. So these are the platforms that independent artists use to distribute their music. Then you have Google restricting independent artists and not allowing you to monetize your sites unless you're at a certain level of viewers and subscription.
Absolutely.
So they're basically moving the major corporation plantation to the internet now. So we're in this space. So now we have like Spotify, for example. You have, Spotify is like the new Clear channel, so to speak. So subscribers are going to Spotify and streaming their music. So now that same power that Clear channel held at the brick and mortar radio station,
right,
the FM AM radio stations, is now moving to the internet. That same type of monopolization of the culture. We etching out a spot, but in the space, but it comes with its difficulties.
It does come with its difficulties. You talked about a term that really resonated with me. You had a conversation with 24/7, and they posted their interview with you on YouTube, but you talked about manufactured hopelessness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something that I talk about all the time, not necessarily using that particular term, but that term encapsulates much of what has occurred in the legislative space and the economic space. Talk about that a little bit with the broadcast audience, and what you believe are the facets that help to create this manufactured hopelessness.
Well, it's the subject of my new book that'll be out November 24th. It's called 3/5 NMC, The Manufacturing of a Dumbed Down Rapper. In this book, I break down it, historically how ghettos were created, because the ghetto is considered the home of hip hop. So we have to explain how the environment that shapes the behavior was manufactured. In order to understand the behavior, we have to understand what went into manufacturing it. So the environment, so manufacturing 3/5 neighborhoods, manufacturing ghettos, so I break down all of these things. The hopelessness was manufactured through calculated processes, policies by design, and that design it yielded the desired result. The operation was a success. The patient died. As Born Free's father would, like my brother Born Free's father would say. But so when we go back, we have to go back. We have to understand how to get out of a problem. You have to understand how you got in it first and foremost. So when we go back, when we look at the policies that created ghetto life, when we understand this fight for social justice and what it's been about since 1619, pretty much, then we'll start to understand, what we're really up against and what we're dealing with and how we got here. And when we look at policy, like for example, the 1994 crime bill, we look at the 1994 crime bill and we realize that for 100 years, from 1880 to 1980, the black incarceration rate was about 100,000 people. But in the 20 years from 1980 to 2000, that number jumped to 1.2 million people, from 100,000 to 1.2, 1.5 million. So we have to, what happened in that time? Did people start committing more crimes? No, crime had actually been on a decline for the 30 years within that gap. Violent crime was on a constant decline according to all FBI statistics. However, the prison rate was popping, the incarceration rate was popping, the arrest rates were going up. So what happened? It was the 1994 crime bill. The crime bill came in, the war on drugs under Nixon, which was all race-based. It was all race-based. It was designed to render the black community impotent politically and economically. So
yeah,
and when we look at it, the crime bill was under Bill Clinton, crime bill in 1994, Democratic Party, and and they implemented it. With it came the war on drugs, and which was a war on black lives, and the result is apparent. So, and even before that, we have the CIA admitting that they flooded the community with cheap cocaine. So they admitted this, and then they created this war on drugs, that focused and targeted our communities when black and white people were doing drugs at the same rate.
It's interesting that you say that, because I tell folk all the time, and folk get mad at me. I tell them, email me. We can continue the conversation. But the truth is, even our previous administration, Democratic in nature, and the Operation Fast and Furious,
yes,
allowed them to go after, a major kingpin. We get it, and they did pick him up. Nonetheless, in order to get him, they allowed the pipeline to flood Texas, to flood Arizona, and drugs and guns.
Absolutely.
And so now street corners were now owned by cartels, where it used to just be, the crew on the corner, but now they're beholden to a cartel that floods semi-automatics, hardware we've never seen.
Absolutely.
And now we got a whole city being shot up. Here in Philadelphia, we're headed towards 400 plus murders.
I just saw that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and so I always implore folk to allow the truth to come out on the issue. Don't get stuck in political parties, because we didn't create either one of them.
Not at all.
Table for either one of them.
Not at all. And right. Exactly. And if we're honest, and we go back and we look at the policies that created a lot of the problems that we're wrestling with today, like, for example, the wealth gap. Wealth has a lot to do with home ownership.
Absolutely.
We go back and we look at the New Deal, with FDR in 1934, the Federal Housing Agency, and the establishment of Fannie Mae.
Yeah, Freddie Mac. Yep.
The Freddie Mac. So those were white-only initiatives that gave white families the ability to build wealth through home ownership, government subsidized home ownership, and black people were excluded from those programs. So the wealth gap was increased and subsidized by the government under FDR at that time, under the New Deal. So, and FDR, we know, was Democratic, so it's not even about the party. We have the party. The party has to be black. I mean, we go to the black party. We need to be going to a black party.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you got to be about the black party. But when we look at the policies, they have been what they've been, and they've been implemented by Democrats. A lot of the stuff that got us here. The crime bill in 1994 was Democrats. Even when we look at the previous administration, and in the height of the protest with Mike Brown, the height of it was similar to what's been going on after George Floyd.
Absolutely.
And however, the previous administration signed an executive order to implement the Police Protection Act.
Right.
which gave police even more latitude and impunity to operate the way they've been operating.
Yeah.
And this even after the administration's attorney general concluded that police precincts and law enforcement across the country had been infiltrated by
white supremacists.
So we have to really, all of these things are part of what should inform our decisions when we're voting, when we're organizing and mobilizing to move the community to a better place.
You have records like Illuminati, records like I Said It, that speak to, speaking truth to power at every stage of this journey.
Right.
For those who are watching right now going, you know what, Wise, I didn't know that. Once again, Wise has put me on. In fact, on your Instagram, you said since 1619, Black America blacks have been surviving America.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't been living in America. We've been surviving America. And one would argue that we're still in that process. We're still in a state of survival. To those who are watching right now, what would you say to them headed into this election? I mean, a lot of it, they're telling us, hey, this is the most important election of your life. Although we heard it last time.
Right. They're not telling us why, though.
Yeah, it's
they're not telling us why it's
exactly
what makes it the most important election, and if it really is, and that's the only way we're going to know if it really is if they tell us why they believe it is. However, going forward with the election, we have to look at what's in the best interest of the group. What's in the best interest of the group, and we need commitments. We need commitments. It's like we're not getting any commitments. It's like, again, George Floyd murdered in front of the world, right? Callously murdered in front of the world. The movement after that was so intense. People from all over the world joined in to demand justice.
Absolutely.
For oppressed people. So in Black people in particular, but in the height of that, the immediate win from that went to the Black trans community with the civil rights, with the Supreme Court ruling. So immediately after that, so when we look at this, it's like every time the protests happen, every time we're out here and we're moving and these conversations occur, we're here. It's like we're spinning our wheels. We're stuck in this proverbial groove in the record, because other communities and groups tend to benefit from our efforts, our mobilization, our protests all the time. So we need some guarantees. We need some guarantees. Everyone else gets guarantees. All the other groups get guarantees. However, we're not getting guarantees. They come with some broad policy that says that, okay, every family that's making less than $100,000 will get this type of tax burden.
Right.
And they say, well, this is going to affect Black people because Black people are the majority population that's under $100,000. No. Yeah. We don't need those type of programs like the minority business programs. Like, okay, this minority business program right here is for Black people can benefit from this program if they utilize the program. But when a white guy can give his wife 51% ownership of the company. And then take full advantage of the minority business enterprise. Law. It's like, we're still benefiting less from these programs. I mean, there's nothing surgical. We need surgical policy that directly addresses the issues, the needs, the concerns of Black people. Because when we look at the landscape, the wealth gap is like $176,000 to $17,600. And headed down. They're predicting that by the year 2053, the average Black household would have zero net worth. So and with the pandemic, that accelerated that time. It kind of truncated the time to now. So we're talking about 3 years out, that 30-year trajectory would be upon us, so we have to really look at who's going to make the commitments, the real commitments to the Black community in ways that hasn't been made before, and it's my opinion, that our communities are, they consider under-resourced or underserved, but it's my opinion that our communities are over-extracted. They're not under-resourced; they're over-extracted. We have resources. We have $1.2 trillion worth of collective buying power. That's a resource. It's a monetary resource that leaves the community at the point of purchase because we don't produce, manufacture, distribute, or retail 99.999% of the consumer products that we consume daily. So that's an issue. So the monetary resources leaving the community. The cultural resources. We created every genre of music in America. American music is Black music. However, we control less than 1% of the receipts from that industry. So all the talent, that cultural resource is being extracted out of the community at the point that it's recorded. So and this transcends every industry. All the resources in our community, the academic genius leaves the community. It goes to work for a Fortune 500 company because our community hasn't developed the institutions and the infrastructure to sustain the lives of the academics that come out of the community. And the athletes as well. It's the same scenario. So our thing is, what we do now, like with the R.A.R.E Snacks Foundation, we develop entrepreneurship and financial literacy programming. I mean, real experiential programs with profit sharing models that allow individuals to learn to develop the products that we consume every day, that teach them to distribute the products that we receive every day. So this is important because it allows us to put ourselves in a position where we control more of the internal markets in the community, and that's important.
Absolutely. And making sure that we don't have to go to someone else for our substance.
Exactly. We should be controlling the lion's share of the internal markets in our communities, so that those dollars and genius and resource can circulate in the community long enough to empower the people that live there. Going forward, we just need to definitely have demands, and those demands have to be collective demands, and they have to be guarantees.
And it's funny. It's almost like, and I know it's cliche-ish for us to have this conversation using music analogies, but it's almost like writing a hit record, bringing it to the A&R, bringing it to the label, and the president of the label says, yo, this joint is hot. We putting it out next month. Get ready. We'll put together a tour. You're in. In fact, we're going to skip you to the front of the line on releases this fall. And then another artist from the label comes out with that record because they gave it to that artist.
Right.
Don't even give you credit. Don't even give you publishing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And act like they never had the conversation with you in the meeting. Act like you never, ever, created the demo or submitted the master. It's now time for us to ensure that the system works for us completely. And I honor you for constantly pushing that. You could have gone so many other ways because of your prominence in hip hop. But you said, I'm going to stick with my people. I'm going to energize my people and educate them in ways that matter. But you have new releases. Let's talk about this as we kind of close this interview up. I need people to support the music and support the foundation, because the foundation is doing crucial work in our community. How do they get in touch with you to support the foundation and to purchase the music?
The foundation on social media is R.A.R.E Snacks FDN. R.A.R.E Snacks FDN, at R.A.R.E Snacks FDN on Instagram, and at R.A.R.E Snacks FDN on Twitter. Facebook, it's R.A.R.E Snacks Foundation. And as far as the music goes, it's at Wise Intelligent, spelled how you would see it in a dictionary, at Wise Intelligent. Twitter, at Wise Intelligent. So that's how you can find me. All my links are in the bio. as well as the links for the foundation's pages. And tonight, the vice presidential debate.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow Raps at Raps Next Foundation on Twitter, at Raps Next FDN on Twitter, where we'll be tweeting as the debate goes on. You know.
Yeah. And I want to make sure too that we reach out to you and have some conversation on the ground in the community over the next couple of weeks, because I think that people need to know what the enlightened black and brown voices are saying about our agenda and what needs to happen. You know, I personally do not agree with external vehicles trying to tell our internal dynamics how to move. No, we do that. We control. They absolutely can't, man. So, Wise, I honor you, brother, on behalf of not just the culture and the broadcast audience. I'm telling you, man to man, we love you, brother. We honor you and appreciate the work you're doing for our people and for the culture.
Love you back, brother Malik. Thanks for having me. And everybody, download the app Stock Boss Up.
Yeah.
Stock Boss Up app at Google Play and the Apple Store is the first free non-subscription based social media platform for investors to learn how to invest. It's free and it's a learning app. It follows the stock market in real time. You learn how to invest in stock market. Stock Boss Up. Download the app.
We're going to make sure, broadcast audience, that we post all that information. Wise, consider this home, brother. Whenever you want to come through, it's yours. The doors are open.
Consider me a family member. I'll be going in the fridge.
Yes, sir. Hey, with your plan, we'll make sure we have food in the fridge for us and our families, brother.
That's what's up.
Yes, sir. Be safe, beloved.
Peace. You too. Thanks.
So we have heard from Brother Wise Intelligent. He dropped all kinds of gems, man. I hope you picked up on the great work that he is doing in the community and the wisdom that he left with us. We're going to make sure that we post all of this on our social media pages so that you can follow him and the Rap Snacks Foundation, get the app as well, and to continue to have balanced conversation about what needs to happen in our communities. Now, this brother here talking about economic development and outreach and empowerment, how we control the resources for sustainability in our community. Brother Tommy Joshua Caison, man, he's been doing this probably his whole life. Everything about him is energized in this way. He's the founder and executive director of Philly Peace Park and Green Wall Street. This brother is a faith-based revolutionary leader. I love that. Grassroots community organizer, North Philly. He's one of yours, but he has deep roots in the South. He's focused on land reclamation and the building of new Black communities. My brother, it is a pleasure to have you on Heart City. Welcome home.
Welcome, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, brother Malik and all the Heart City family. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
So let's dig into this. I mean, with your acumen, with your expertise, with your wealth and breadth and depth of knowledge, you could be doing so much, so many other things. But you said, look, I'm going to focus on this particular element, how we control the land, how do we use it to our best benefit? How do we ensure that we are returning fourfold what we're investing, not only into the land, but into our communities as a whole? What was your passion point around these particular projects and this mission?
Well, thank you, brother Malik. The main thing is that it was us. It was us. It was our people. It was the Black race, the Black nation, so to speak. We may be treated less than by the dominant group, the temporary dominant group. You know, those who surround us may not have love for us, but the one who is in control of it all has deep love for us. So knowing who we are as a people, as a race, that's more than enough motivation and inspiration for me to serve this group, this people, to the ending days of my life. So I would have to say, Brother Malik, it's a deep love for our little boys and girls, for our men, for our women, how great we are, how superior we are, how beloved we are. That is my motivation, and I'm very, very thankful and honored to serve this people.
First and foremost, Bro, you just put a whole battery in my back as you were saying those affirmations, man. It is exciting to hear men in the space. And I know the narrative suggests that we are only focused on ourselves. We are not focused on family, that we're not focused, definitely not focused on community. And that's a total lie. There are tons of us. And I'm not saying that we're perfect by any means, in any way or shape and form. What I'm saying is we're committed not to waking up every day and getting it right, and being better than we were the day before. But more importantly, there are others that are also committed to loving each other and uplifting each other. We're all not pulling guns. We're all not trying to hold drug corners. We're now talking about economics in a real way and committed to rising the tide of our community. Talk about land use and why it's so important for us to ensure that we have areas of fresh produce, areas that are returning substance back to the community, as opposed to just always new development or a parking lot or something, some grand building. And yes, rec centers are good, but sometimes it's more than a rec center. What's going to take care of all the families, not just the little legs and arms and energy that exists in our youth?
Right, brother Malik. It's interesting because this system or this country always do as I say, don't do as I do. And we all know the story of supposedly of how this nation was founded. Folks were looking for land, and then they established 13 small colonies for land, and then they fought for land, and then they built for themselves for land. But when it comes to the Black community, is always this trickle down thing. You can go for the rec center or go for the position. What our community deserves as a people, we deserve what any other people on this planet throughout history has had, and that is land and space for our own self-determined development. And Lord knows that more so than any people on this planet, being a people who've been kidnapped from our natural habitat, carried on ships to this nation to be the burden bearers of this nation. If you remember at the close of the Civil War, there was a promise made to us, because it was acknowledged in the midst of war that the only way to make this people whole, to give this people an opportunity to develop themselves, was to give them 40 acres and a mule. That was not given. So you fast forward now to 2020, our community is a collection of dispersed colonies where other external factors keep us in a permanent position of oppression, sucking the blood from our community, thwarting the development of our men, our women, our children, keeping us trapped under an occupying military force. We must have land. Now, the type of revolution, Brother Malik, that the Peace Park talk about, and we do call it a revolution, because God knows we have to transform this situation in a tremendous ways. This revolution is the easiest revolution, actually, because this is a revolution that is actually backed by Almighty God. God desires, in his word, his promise, to see us as a self-respecting, an independent, an enterprising people right now on this planet. And the revolution that we talk about is not a revolution miles away. It's not a revolution far in the future. We're talking about a revolution right in our very communities. But as it also says in the scripture, if we would turn and transform our ways and accept the Creator as our Lord, that's the revolution. God said that I will bless you and I will back you and I will make you whole. So in our communities today, with all the vacant land, I'm from North Philadelphia, and there's nothing but vacant land. With all the poverty, with all the brothers and sisters that are out of work, hanging on the corner, downbeaten, depressed, we must launch a great revolution to reclaim the land in our community. And if we do this, Brother Malik, we can start to practice the best methods. We can start to teach each other how we can grow and produce our own food. We can teach each other how we can start to design our own buildings. We can take what comes up out of the land transform it using our genius, and learn how to actually produce economics. One of the big things that our community always lacked was the precondition to have healthy economics. And that precondition is access to land, access to space, and a democracy so that we can freely pursue our genius.
You know, what's interesting. One, I'm excited about everything that you just said, because I think it is so crucial. When the Nation of Islam was talking about Muhammad Farms and what needed to happen there, the plan that existed in that, and obviously ideologies and misinformation got in the way of all of that, and wildly hampered its ability to really grow and foster. What I see, even in these hyper localized conversations that you're talking about right now, I look at companies like Marathon Grill, who said, look, we'll take Marathon Farms and make sure that Marathon Farms would supply Marathon Grills. So that way we could always say we have locally sourced produce. I'm like, there should be, in my opinion, farms even in impact areas in urban communities that are producing produce, not just for the community, but commitments to sell in a distribution network to Black chefs, to Black owned restaurants and people of color at price points that make sense for them, so that we can literally sustain our businesses so that they can turn around and give right back to us and keep the chain going. Is that some of the planning that you're thinking about with the North Philly Peace Park and other projects that you're working with?
Oh, absolutely. Our main thrusts have certainly been to try to get the healthy food into the mouths and the belly of our people, being that we suffer from food insecurity. And if we can't sustain ourselves nutritionally, it's very difficult for the children to be able to go to school, to be able to compete at school, and so on and so on. But right next close to that need to feed our people has been the need to spark off and supply and to fuel our economics. So for example, we have a program called Green Wall Street, which is a company I developed. And with Green Wall Street developed into a neighborhood level business incubation program, right? Where the company was able to initiate a competition among people in the neighborhood. And the competition was to see who can come up with the best idea to utilize the materials that we have at the park to actually create a business. And if somebody can come up with a good idea, so some folks it now has juice companies, because we have a series of apple trees, plum trees, peach trees. And if that business idea that comes from the land could be sustained, we were willing to pay for them to get their LLC. So that's one concrete example of how the land can be a basis for us starting new businesses. Another thing that we were happy to do, by having the land, we have about 1/4 of an acre, so it's about a half a block of land that we have. We have been able to establish something called the Black Market. Now the Black Market happens every third Friday. And every third Friday at the park, we open the park up free of charge for all Black businesses to come out and to vend from 3 to 8. That's how serious we are about the connection between space, land ownership, and what we can actually do. Because as the brother Wise, man, I'm just was loving the last interview. America is so anti-Black that there's no space for us. There's no space where we can do what we need to do for ourselves. But land, the land in our community in particular, definitely allows for the type of Black-on Black collaborations, Black-on Black partnerships that, as you mentioned, not only fuels and feed us, but also develops an economic base for the community.
You know, what's interesting, as you talk about that, there not being space, used both metaphorically and figuratively in the context. What should we be doing from a legislative perspective? Obviously, you know, everybody's talking about the contract for Black America. What needs to happen? Where do we need to be in the political landscape? And clearly there has not been a true home for us. If we're going to be honest about this, there's one side that talks to us more but doesn't necessarily mean that it's home based. And so as some of us are coming into that realization, and recognizing that we need to have another contract, we need to sit down and talk again, but this time with, to Wise's point, some guarantees. What are the things that we need to look at legislatively? Because it sounds like Department of Ag is a place that we've gone away from. We always considered it to be just rural and suburban in nature, but maybe Department of Ag needs to be a conversation. What's the budget there? What does it look like for subsidies for urban farming? How do we ensure that Black leaders who are elected, even if they're in an urban city, have a good grasp on how to pull agricultural funds down for urban communities? Is that the lane that we need to take?
Absolutely, Brother Malik. And I think what you just hit on is the key component that's necessary right now. So, for example, I'm all for a contract with Black America, but what we really need is we need a Black united front. We need a Black united front. If you are Black, no matter what station you find yourself in, no matter what industry that you work in, and also too, no matter what methods that you may want to employ, it must be a recognition that we need a united front, an effort to attack the situation, each and every one of us from our particular vantage point. Now, white folks established something called the Homestead Act. And the Homestead Act was an act of Congress that essentially gave free land to white people if they were willing to work the land and develop the land. And this is pretty much how the Midwest and the West was largely established. What we need right now, and we particularly need our Black legislators and council people to raise this issue, we need an Urban Homestead Act. This Urban Homestead Act would put protections to neighborhoods experiencing this out of control menace of gentrification. This act will allow for the vacant land, the vacant properties to be made available as a first option to brothers and sisters like me, you, and the folks that's listening to purchase at a nominal fee or to receive a write-off for it. We should be able to get first dibs on the land and of the properties if we are willing to develop these properties in this land for the community use or for business opportunities. Also, too, there must be built-in guarantees of community benefit agreements if other entities from outside the community are to come into the community. This unbridled gentrification is damn near criminal. Is damn near bullying against an unprotected, unloved, and uncherished neighborhood. And all Black politicians that now are in the halls of justice should be ashamed of themselves at the level of development that's happening, the adverse effects that is happening on the Black community, and the fact that our communities generation after generation is still kept in the same position. So I would say, Brother Malik, we need an Urban Homestead Act that would focus on the transfer of vacant properties, vacant land, as a first resort, a first dibs, so to speak, of community level actors.
You know, what's interesting, even as we talk about that, you brought me back. I started having visions of footage from Mayor Maynard Jackson, who sat in Atlanta and said, look, these planes will land on the dirt because I'm not letting anybody touch this unless we have minority participation in the building of what is now Jackson Hartsfield Airport. And so 30% minority participation, which was unheard of at the time, came because he was willing to say, look, I don't care how it goes down, but it ain't going to go down without Black and brown involved in a very real way. I feel your pain on that because that's a similar conversation and desire of mine to see more anger, but also more commitment from Black leaders who are in the space to say it's not enough to have billboards up that say Black Lives Matter, or, you know, you are important to us, or whatever language they're going to use that's safe and sound, but rather to say, no, let's get involved and return and restore some of the vibrancy that was taken by the systems. It sounds like everything that you're talking about and that these parks also produce as fruit for the community. And so How do we get involved? I mean, you have so much going on. Green Wall Street, we've got to get down with that. We've got to get down with the Peace Park. And I'm sure there are others who are going, you know what, there's a lot nearby. There's a lot down the street. There's something next to me that I want to start. I want to get involved in producing for my community. How do they do that?
Okay, well, thank you, brother. The key thing is, you know, we started out just going out and cleaning up. We started off just valuing the land that was under our feet, and that very act of putting that attention to actually cleaning up our community, not because we had money, somebody paying us, or because, you know, this or that, but because we really value where we were at and we were able to envision a future. I would encourage people to first seek the spiritual fortitude. First of all, to all renew ourselves and our understanding of where does the power really lies.
Yeah.
Power really lies in the Creator, the one that created all things. And when we consult that spirit first and foremost, and we ask that spirit, that great spirit, the Almighty God, to help us, to bless us, to send us on our way. Then moving the spirit, we understand that a dream or a vision the size of a mustard seed can grow into a great tree. So with your spirit intact, get out into your community, start getting your neighbors together, start envisioning what can be on this land. Because, you know, Brother Malik, I have to talk to our people spiritually. I have to try to talk to them on that level.
Right.
Because sometimes the Most High is just waiting for you and me and us to put ourselves in a position where we can be used in a mighty way to show the power of the Most High. So after you do that, man, call your brother, call and contact Philly Peace Park at phillypeacepark@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us at North Philly Peace Park on Instagram, at West Philly Peace Park on Instagram. And we would do all we can do to help you with our knowledge to move through the process, to go from being a people without land, without a say, without capital, to become a people that is abundant in land, in know-how, and capital, right? Because at the end of the day, we need Black power. And Black power is not putting Black Lives Matters painted in the middle of the street. Black power is not the NBA putting a black fist on the jersey. Black power is the power for us to control our destiny and to put in place a future that is good for me and you and for our boys and girls.
My brother, you have spoke to my heart, and I know that the broadcast audience feels the same. Brother Tommy, we're going to make sure that we not only support the work and efforts and get out there with our hands and feet, not just with our words, but then also make sure that we spread the word about what's happening on the social media channels, so those that are interested can see it, get involved, get engaged, and also celebrate the work that's being done. I think it's important too to honor those who are doing the work while they can still hear it and see it and enjoy it. Brother Tommy, we love you, man. We honor you and appreciate you.
Brother Malik. Love you too, brother. Love Heart City Radio, man. May God continue to bless this wonderful institution.
We appreciate you, brother, and we'll be in touch soon. Consider this home.
Yes, sir. I do, brother. Thank you, family.
No doubt. So you have heard from our brother Tommy, about the great work that's happening at the North Philly Peace Park, what's happening in West Philly and Green Wall Street. It's time to get involved, get engaged. Stop waiting on folk to come with the pie in the sky. We make the pie right here. We put it in our own ovens. We bake it ourselves, and we cut it up equally so that the community can have a better place to live, work, and play. We're playing chess, not checkers. Stop trying to take all the pieces off the board. Stop falling for simplistic moves. This is a chessboard. And make sure that you are not a pawn that is just being used as a gambit to move other things ahead. Make sure that it's our chessboard, that it's our chess game, and more importantly, that it's our strategy. There are some things that we're going to have to do in order to put ourselves in position to win. You don't need to take every piece off the board in chess. You only need to incapacitate the king. Let that one stick with you. So I need you to subscribe today, not tomorrow, today. Go to our YouTube channel subscribe, become a part of the Heart City family. There you can receive updates, notifications, bonus content. We'll probably put some behind the scenes stuff there and more. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love each and every one of you. You have been absolutely amazing. Thank you for those who followed us on the online channels, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Heart City Radio. You can follow us there in Heart City TV. And as always, I love each and every one of you. I need you to feel beautiful, look beautiful, and act beautiful. Why? Because you truly are beautiful.